The National Society Daughters of the American Revolution is without doubt comprised of exceptional women with amazing stories to tell. Membership in the NSDAR inextricably links you to a powerful sisterhood, and this week we're delighted to share the story of a truly inspirational woman whose efforts have impacted the lives of many and encourage each of us to aspire to something greater than ourselves. Born on June 14, 1907, a day that would, 9 years later, be proclaimed Flag Day by President Woodrow Wilson, and to parents living in the logging and fishing town of Calumet, Washington on the Columbia River, Julia Carolyn Butler Hansen's ancestral pioneering spirit would fuel a nearly 50-year political career at the local, state, and national levels. A direct descendant of Private Caleb Blood of Massachusetts, and a member of the University of Washington chapter, Washington State Society DAR, her grandparents came west in 1877, settling in Washington Territory, merging their lives with the local logging industry and taking in boarders to make ends meet. The strong-minded women during a time when women in the Washington Territory briefly had the right to vote in 1883, lost it in 1887, and didn't regain it again until 1910, provided her with role models and confidence to speak her mind to enact change. It seems that Julia's sense of independence and perseverance can be sourced to her mother and a pioneering grandmother. Julia's mother, Maud, passed the state teacher's exam at 16 years old and went on to run for election at age 23, becoming the first female Wahkiakum County school superintendent. She was also active in Eastern Star and the DAR. Well, just 2 years later, she married Julia's father and later completed the terms of her elected offices, though pregnant with Julia, truly a rebuke to the social norms of the day. Well, Julia attended Oregon State and the University of Washington, and living for a time in the DAR chapter house, she graduated in 1930 and witnessed firsthand the impact of the Great Depression on the local economy. She worked on FDR's 1932 political campaign, and upon viewing the proceedings from the gallery of the state legislature in Olympia, she remarked, I think I'll sit here someday." Julia landed a job first in the stenographer's pool and then in the bill writing room of the Washington State Legislature. At age 30, she became the first woman elected to the seat on the Calumet Town Council, and of her desire to do this, she once said, "You couldn't help but be interested in transportation when you came from this area because we did not have a road in or out of here until 1930. Well, just 1 year later, running on perseverance and little else, she was elected to the state legislature, launching a 22-year career in the Washington House of Representatives. Her first legislative session was followed by her marriage to Harry Hansen, a local logging blacksmith 24 years her senior, but a man devoted to her and her political aspirations. Julia Butler Hansen once said, "I have a knack for legislation, and I like the rough and tumble of legislation." And truly, the young woman familiar with a tomboy lifestyle and raised from a logging camp background developed a sharp wit along with a keen sense of humor and strategic tenacity that matched or exceeded that of any other legislator. Her concern for improving education accompanied her to the state, serving as a member of the Education Committee from 39 to 60 and a chairman 4 times. She and State Superintendent of Public Instruction Pearl Wanamaker, a former teacher, state representative, and state senator, forged a powerful alliance resulting in the state community college system, nursery schools, kindergartens, summer camps, school lunch programs, a minimum wage increase for teachers, and overall improved state funding for education. Her next target, of course, became Washington's roads and highways, becoming the first female chair of the Roads and Bridges Committee in 1949. Over a span of 10 years, she reformed a corrupt highway funding system, shepherded the creation of the 15 corridor, including the Alaskan Way Viaduct, and the Evergreen Point Floating Bridge across Lake Washington, and oversaw establishment of Washington State ferries. On May 5, 1988, the Governor Booth Gardner was quoted in the Seattle Post-Intelligencer as remarking, and I quote, "Mrs. Hansen did as much for transportation in Washington as anyone in this state's history," end quote. As many women do, Hansen balanced the roles of motherhood to son David along with an active political career. Colleagues described her in these ways: that when presiding over a hearing, she was hot and to the point, unmerciful if the witness was unprepared or late. Another said she was a shrewd politician, and she doesn't make wasted motions, always knowing how to campaign and get votes. When she was under consideration for the chairmanship of an appropriation committee, Chairman George Mahon privately polled other committee members as to whether or not a woman was an appropriate candidate for the position. Hansen cornered him and said, "Mr. Chairman, have you ever run around and asked the members of the committee if a man would make a good chairman?" She recalled years later that Mahon looked kind of sheepish and quit his surveying. Well, when she brought her first bill as subcommittee chair to the full committee, that same Chairman Mahon, who had polled to see if she would be a good chairman, decided to test her. And he said, "Oh, Julie, you're going to have to cut at least $2 million out of that bill." Well, Hansen complied, and the next morning after conferring with her subcommittee, she reported to Mahon that she had cut $2.5 million from the bill. He said, "Oh, Julie, that's wonderful. Where did you take it out of the bill?" She replied, "Well, right out of your district, Mr. Chairman." The episode only enhanced Hansen's popularity and her stature on the Appropriations Committee. She served for many years, finally retiring in 1980 at age 73. She has been honored with so many things: the Julia Butler Hansen National Wildlife Refuge for the Columbian white-tailed deer, the Julia Butler Hansen Elementary School in Olympia, and the Julia Butler Hansen Bridge connecting Cathlamet and Puget Island in the Columbia River. She's also been honored for her efforts on behalf of the National Foundation for the Arts. Other accolades during her extensive career spotlight her contributions on behalf of Native Americans and the environment. Julia Butler Hansen, one of the most powerful female legislators in Washington state history and highly influential on the national political scene, died on May 3, 1988. Her tenacity benefited many, and her accomplishments reached far beyond the Pacific Northwest.